Good evening, everyone. It's Friday night, it's 10:05, and you are watching the 18% Grey Show, the only photography show that's guaranteed to cure insomnia. And I'm your presenter, Michael Babyface Fleck. So, what a week it's been. 2 live streams last weekend, over nearly 4.5 hours each. Wow, never thought we'd do that much in a weekend. So, here we are with part 10. I know what you're thinking. When is this going to end? Well, you never know. Looking at how many pictures I've got left, this could well be the penultimate, or maybe even the final episode. Who knows? I'm just remembering to put on my video light there, because if you watched the last stream, towards the end, you noticed that the light just went out suddenly, and I had to put on my normal uplighter. So, yeah, that was fun. And last week, well, no, was it last week? Yeah, last weekend, my washing machine broke down. That goes along with the broken tap. And after ordering spare parts and paying £7.99 for DPD next day delivery, they didn't bother to show up at my house and left me a message at 10 o'clock at night to say, oh, we've actually tried to deliver to your address, but there was no one there. Well, I'm sorry, I call that bullshit, because there was somebody there all the time. So I had to go off to Morrison's to pick up a package that I paid $7.99 to have delivered. So yeah, that was kind of a bit of annoying. And then yesterday, well, yeah, I really don't want to think about that. Having to strip down a washing machine to get a motor out, to replace some worn brushes and reassemble it took me well over 4.5 hours, almost as long as a stream, and a lot more excruciating. Well, I don't know, if you've watched some of these streams, you might find these are quite excruciating and wondering, when is he actually going to shut up and get on do some editing? Well, not just yet, because what I'd like to say, obviously, for those of you watching tonight, and I don't, there might be very many, but if there are, let's just leave a message in the strap. I need to be able to talk and type at the same time. There we go. So just a quick message to anyone. If you're watching this stream, feel free to say hi in the chat. You know, keep me some company tonight. Because for those of you who are in other countries maybe watching this, or possibly watching this on replay, as if watching it the first time would be bad enough. Excuse me. Today is the beginning of London Comic Con. Yes, and now you're probably thinking, when are you going to get round editing London Comic Con photos? Well, this is the reason why I'm not. That's because while everybody and their dog is down here, I am all the way up here in Manchester. It's just a little bit too expensive for 3 days, and right now I need the money for other things. And as you probably know, we have got something of a cost of living crisis going on. It's another one of the government's lovely manufactured catastrophe disasters to keep us all on the back foot and never know what's coming next. But you know, hey ho, it is what it is. So that's why I'm not at London this weekend. But my good friend Valentine Cosplay Gaming is there, and she is going to be doing interviews for a podcast. This is an upcoming project that we're both working on. I'll be doing the production for it. So if you happen to see her around or she approaches you, by all means, give her an interview. She's lovely. You'll love her. She's fantastic. And again, if you are at Comic-Con tomorrow on Saturday, she will be cosplaying Yelan from Genshin Impact. Right, so that's the initial bit of rambling going on. And tonight, we're going to carry on. I know what you're thinking. When is it ever going to finish? We're going to carry on with some edits from SecretCon, which took place round about the start of September. And here we are at nearly the end of October. So that's kind of about the right sort of time to deliver pictures, in my opinion. I think people give out pictures far too quickly sometimes. I know when you want to capitalize on social media at a big event, especially like London Comic-Con, you're going to want to get out a few really good pictures quickly. But I don't care that much about social media. I just want to shoot. I want to enjoy what I do and just be passionate about photography and editing stuff, as well as other nerdy stuff. So as long as I get my pictures out at some point, it's fine. Now, last week we did, I suppose you could call it a Lightroom versus Photoshop showdown. And part of the reason for this was that Adobe Lightroom, they've just released a brand new version 12, and I've just upgraded to that, and it adds a hell of a lot of new features. Some of them are real game changers, especially for people like wedding photographers. Some of the things you can do now, you almost don't need to use Photoshop, except if you want to do more advanced techniques or do certain things like removing objects, which Lightroom sometimes does a good job, but sometimes it doesn't. But it's getting better. So anyway, without further ado, let's go and switch into Lightroom and take a look at the pictures we're going to be editing tonight. Right, so here we are, and you may not notice, or if you have done, I'm clean shaven today. So yes, this is Michael Babyface Black, and I'm your host and presenter. So now, thinking back now, this is a friend of mine, Sebastian Holmes. He's cosplaying Sebastian from Black Butler, which is one of his and one of my favorite animes. And we haven't seen each other for probably over 3 years, thanks to COVID. So when we met up at SecretCon, I stopped, took my time, and had a good catch up. I just wanted to talk. I wasn't feeling like under pressure to run around and shoot as many people as possible. Although sometimes I think I should have done a little bit more and got a little bit more content, but that's by the by now. It's past. We're all good. So we had a long chat about stuff that's been going on, catching up with things about the scene in general, and taking advantage of this amazing building. So we're finally getting around to doing some edits of Sebastian, and we're going to have a look and see whether we can do this purely in Lightroom, and I think we can. but I'd like to have that go, but have the option if I feel like maybe Photoshop would be better, we'll switch over into Photoshop. So this is kind of a bit like a repeat of last week, but it'll give some of you out there, especially say any photographers watching or people who do do editing and stuff and have Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop, and maybe do most of your heavy lifting in Photoshop. This might give you, an option to do something and speed up your workflow, and that's always a good thing. Just getting that coffee there. Don't worry, that can of lager is in the fridge. And it's something of a tradition. Or maybe not a good one, given the time I drink it, but hey ho, it is what it is. So, starting off at this original picture, let's just go in for a quick zoom in, check if we need to do any sort of work. Now, one of the things with cosplay costumes is sometimes, depending on the fabric, you can pick up an awful lot of lint and dust. And yeah, we've got a few bits and pieces here. So we could have a go and use our healing tool. Actually, a content aware removal tool. Now this is a new tool. It's actually pretty nifty. And we're just going to just do that. Right, no, it's not. Let's undo that. Yeah, just use the heal tool, I think, on this one. And we're just going for any sort of obvious things that are going to draw the eye and take away attention from where we should be looking in that case. I can see that this is the old problem we're getting here. It's one of the things that I find a little frustrating with Lightroom. It doesn't seem to like my tablet. As you can see, it can sort of go off on itself and not know when to stop. And like you see there, you can sort of see it's all overreacting at times to things. And yeah, as you can see, it's one of those things that I find a little bit irritating when it comes to it. Now there's a thing. There used to be a button that would say done, so you could always say I'm complete on that. I assume now that what you would do is you would just simply close the healing tool and do that. Now obviously we're not really going to notice that much as we're not zooming in a lot, but it's just cleaning up a little bit and just sort of tidying up loose ends, things like that. So what we shall do next is we'll have a play around with, say, the color temperature. Obviously it might allow us to, should we warm this up a little bit or pick it into a much more cooler tone? I'm thinking maybe we go just a touch cooler. And let's just say raise the shadows a little bit, increase the texture a little bit, just take the saturation down a tiny bit. That's just kind of my style. I like the colors that come out of the Nikon Z6. I was shooting this with a D810, sorry. The Z6 is the camera that I almost don't talk about and don't use. It's just one of those sort of love-hate relationships you have with a camera. Yeah, sometimes you actually like them and sometimes you don't. And what we'll do, let's just say we're just going to take the sharpening down just a little bit there. And what we'll do next is going to select our background. And you can see that Lightroom does a really good job of detecting the background. And then once we've got this, we can say, okay, I want to maybe make this background darker. First thing we'll do is just take off that overlay. I might say, I just want to make him pop a little bit. So if we say something like, I think, something like that. So as you can see, we're not too bothered about hard and fast values, but it's just judging by eye. And we'll see what else we might want to do to this. So we've already desaturated the background. We've dropped the exposure a little bit. And looking at that, I'd say that's kind of where I'm happy with at the moment. And what we'll do next is create a new mask and we'll select subject. You see that? That's impressive. And what's even more impressive is the fact that you can actually tweak almost all of the values on this when you select subject. So what we'll do is I'm just going to delete that mask. Turn that tool off again. Turn that back on again. Create a new mask. And we'll just select people. As you can see, if you hover over, you can select a person. This is actually a really cool feature, especially if you have groups, because you could select the whole group of people or each individual, mask them and apply adjustments to each specific area. So for example, if I want to change the face, skin and lips to make that slightly brighter, I could go that. Obviously, the one thing it doesn't have at the moment is the clothes themselves. So I'd have to select the entire subject. I could say iris and pupil. I could accentuate the color in that, and that's something we might look at doing. So if we say take face, skin and lips, and we create a mask of that, off that overlay. And we can then just take that brightness up a bit. As you can see, we could go too far, it really gets too dark. We could just lift that ever so slightly. And in fact, another thing you could do is you could select the entire subject, change your contrast to say make the clothing look darker and more contrasty, and then select the face and then undo those values. So you could effectively kind of split the result. So this is actually a very powerful tool. And say if we go, zoom in, say 25%. And you can see we've got red contacts here. We could go back, create a new mask, select people again, this time iris and pupil. Create the mask on that. And then we could take a look, say saturation. So we could take that down, almost take all the color out. Or we could boost the saturation quite a bit. I'd say somewhere maybe about there. Just a little more intense. Possibly lift exposure on that. You see, doing that, that's almost like doing the Stargate effect when they're taken over by the gold. So, but this is Black Butler, not Stargate. So we might just raise exposure just a little bit. And then what we'd do is maybe create a new mask. This time we'll just select the subject. And I'd have thought that you could subtract parts of the mask, so you could potentially, let's just have a look. Yeah, you could intersect that mask with any one of these, but I haven't played around with that just yet. So we'll go with just a basic, select the entire subject, which is where we're at. And what we shall do, actually, we could subtract. Subtract some people. If I subtract, say, the face, skin, eyebrows, and hair. And now we've basically got a mask that only covers the clothes. So what we might do now, we'll take off the overlay and we'll drop the exposure a little bit. About 0.5. I always find it's very sensitive. So take that, and then we take the contrast, and we'll just boost that a little bit. Something like that. Let's see if I can remember what we don't need command. What we do for is before and after views. So just taking a look there, you can see how we've brightened up Sebastian's face. We've made the eyes slightly brighter, a little more saturated, because after all, he is a demon. We've also taken the clothes and we've darkened them down a bit and just boosted the contrast so that the difference between the light and dark is sort of reduced a little bit. And now we have a sort of much more sort of a paler look, but Sebastian is meant to be pale as a demon, so I think that's sort of looking pretty good there. Actually, as that's gone, just put that over there. And we're now on the water. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, hang on a minute, all these other streams you've been using Photoshop heavily, and I have, but there's been specific cases where I've needed to do certain things, and in a situation like this, sometimes you actually can go for less is more, basically. And plus, in the time you've seen me messing around with this, you know, if I was a bit more proficient in using this, after all, it's a brand new feature, I could be knocking edits out like this probably every 15 minutes, and we could get through an awful lot of pictures. I wouldn't say I'd use Lightroom for everything, but it has its uses. If you're doing, say, portraiture work or outdoor fashion shoots, Lightroom might be good enough. You know, it's good for getting out quick previews to people. If you do need to go back and do more editing, it's something you can do in Photoshop and refine and tweak it. And as I showed last week with the pictures from Bellatrix, I did a Lightroom edit and I also did a Photoshop edit, and in that case the sort of differences were more the effects that I was adding, looking at things like atmospherics, adding some smoke and haze and lighting effects. When there isn't anything that you need to add, you can get away easily with using Lightroom. And most of the photographers at London Comic Con who are putting out pictures in the since yesterday, yes, somebody has put out a picture from a shoot yesterday, and in my opinion, that's the best shoot of the event, and the event only started this morning, and he's already aced it. For those of you who don't know, the photographer is a London-based photographer. He's called Carlos Adama. If you haven't seen him, follow him. He's amazing. And he got to do a shoot that most, probably nearly all of us cosplay photographers would kill photo. He got to do a cyberpunk Edge Runners photo shoot with none other than Yaya Han. And if you know anything about the American cosplay scene, she is like an A-lister in terms of cosplay, right up there at the top. So for an English tog to get to shoot someone of that caliber, he's really arrived. You know, he's going to be riding either one massive high this weekend, or every other shoot is just going to feel like a disappointment in comparison. But seriously though, check out his work. He is amazing. So there you go, me plugging other photographers on my stream, as well as plugging my good friend Val on Valentine Cosplay Gaming. If you do see her or look her up on Facebook, Instagram or Twitch, go give her a follow. She's lovely. See, I'm doing advertising here. Right, so getting distracted. Chat's really quiet, but yeah, I kind of expect this tonight on a Friday night with MCM London on. Everybody is probably either collapsed in their hotel rooms, maybe partying down at the Fox, paying £5.50 for a ticket just to go into a pub. That's even before you buy a drink. What the fuck? But hey, it's London. You'll need to take out a second mortgage to buy a pint. So I'm here drinking Corporation Pop right now. Yes, the rambling is strong with this one tonight. So, trying to get back on course here. The before and after. This is where we started. This is kind of where we're at. And on its own, this is great. Because we don't have a lot of colour, we can play around with some colour grades. And that is going to be one of the next things we do. Or we could play with a tone curve. We have multiple ways to affect changes in colour. The fun part with Lightroom, if I'm right, is going to be copying these settings to the next picture. Most of them should work, but some of the layer colour adjustments could be a little tricky. So we're going to use this as a bit of an experiment. You know, if I get to a point where I think, this isn't working, I'm going back to Photoshop. And I'll just stick with a tried and trusted method. Well, it's good to have a play around with the new tools, find out what they can really do, because stuff like this can really change the way you work. It can shave 20 minutes off doing an edit. That's another picture you can get done in an evening. That's not a bad thing. Never a bad thing, in all honesty. So let's go with my normal curve adjustment I would normally be doing. I would then just possibly just pull that down a tiny bit. Up there. Let's go to our red layer. Because as we boost the red, we're changing some of the colors on the stone there. And then we're going a bit too green, which is not sure about that. I'd probably just add a tiny bit of red, but about that. It's just about that much. Then we'll switch to our green channel. Again, I just look at where and what effect that's having. And you might think, you know what, may possibly leave that green channel. And switch to the blue, into the blue. Again, pulling the blue down, we start introducing a lot of yellows. Most of those leaves are fairly green, so I'm just going to raise the blue a little bit there. And I'm going to lift up the blue levels a bit. I'm going to go about up there. And maybe let's just pull that blue level down for the highlight. Yeah, that's starting to change the face. Colours everything a bit sort of jaundiced looking there. No, we'll put that back where it belongs. You know, put that back where it came from also will help me. So that's one means of adjustment. So switch off the tone curve and back in again. And that just adds a little bit of color into the shadow area. So we're adding some blue into the black. So it's not just a pure black. Kind of gives it a bit of a filmic look, which is my kind of favorite look to date so far. And what we could do now, if we had more colors to play with, we could actually mess around with hue, saturation, and luminance or brightness of the color. So we could go to any particular color and decide, oh well, I want to make these greens more saturated, or I want to take them down a little bit. It's a shame that at the moment with the latest Lightroom that we can't have this tone curve in the masks, so that as we're applying masks to our subject or our background, we'd have access to a tone curve, hue, saturation, luminance, and color grading. So we could color grade the background different from our subject slightly. So what we can do here now is we'll go to, say, our color grading wheel, and I'm going to try and not do orange teal color, because I always seem to do that. They always say that your shadow and highlight sliders should be in the opposite direction, almost 180. But what we'll do is we'll just grab this down, and you can see how that gets quite strong. But as we rotate it around, you can see how it's adding different colors into our darker, shadowy areas. And sometimes it'll work, and sometimes it doesn't. Now, because we've gone for some fairly cold, foolish looking colors, I would say maybe somewhere about there. And then we're going to drop this down a little bit so it's at that point. And then maybe we'll look at our highlights. And again, just to check on highlights, that's affecting the brightest areas of the picture. And you can see how the skin tones are also being affected a bit. Now we could even go somewhere here. This is almost like a lip toning effect. I wouldn't really bother with the mid-tones, which is sort of everything else at this level. And we can also apply a global grade. As you can see, just going around wheel, we might say. Actually, I kind of like, maybe I like it there. And I only want a very slight amount being applied. Again, what we can do, if we go back to our tone curve and turn that off, you can see that there's a bit of an effect. So each of these effects are cumulative, so they add on top of each other. So you can see we've affected the background. And as you can see how it's kind of making more of a change in the stone. It's having a little bit of effect on the clothes, but not too drastic. And I'd say right now, that's kind of where it is. I like that. It's got the sort of like vibe. So to recap, we'll just go back to our before and after. So on our before, you can see straight away that's the raw output from the Pt.10 raw files, which are 36 megapixel. You know, for a camera that's about 12 years old now, that's still pretty impressive. And although I've got a Z6, the autofocus is not as good, and that kind of, it's like a bit of a sort of a bad taste in my mouth with Nikon. I think they dropped the ball with the first Z6. Now the Z9 top of the range camera is pretty impressive. What I've heard, it rivals Canon and Sony for the autofocus speeds. But just like the flagship cameras from Canon and Sony, if you wanted to buy one, you'd need to drop $5.5 grand to buy a camera body. That's nuts. That is just totally, utterly nuts. I could never imagine spending that much. I've always bought my gear used where possible, because if you buy something a few years old, the value will start to drop, but there's nothing wrong with the camera. You know, it still takes pictures, and does it matter if it's a Sony and it has a slight orange color cast to people's skin? Nearly everyone who shoots Sony that I've seen sell preset packs. So, and if you do any kind of level of photoshopping, you can just tweak the colors. It's good enough. I have yet to try a Sony. Every time I pick one up, it always pick it up and go, ugh, put it back down again. But lately I'm starting to think about maybe switching to a different system, or possibly going for a smaller, lighter camera. Maybe where I started off with the Panasonic Lumix G80. I mean, the autofocus wasn't the best, but it was a very small, lightweight camera kit, and I just seem to added on more and more stuff. Sometimes stuff that I think I don't even need, really, or hardly ever use. So maybe I may be switching systems next year if I can get any more money together, but that's another story. So where are we? 49 minutes into the stream, so I think we've got room for another edit. So we're going to go back to our finished edit, as I imagine it to be. And what we'll do is we're going to have a look at how we go about copying some of these settings. In fact, well, let's just see. We go to develop settings and choose copy settings. This can show you everything that is in the current settings of the picture you're working on that you can copy. What I don't know, and what we're going to have a play with, is masking. Let's copy that. We'll copy that. We'll take the color grading. We'll have the tone curve. we'll take pretty much all of the basic settings. I'm not bothered with the lens correction at the moment, or transform, or vignetting. We can always play with that later on, but we'll take those, we'll copy them. Let's see what happens when we apply them to this picture. Okay, so edit pasted, but updating AI settings may take some time. Okay, this is interesting. If I'm not careful, we could finish this stream in an hour. Don't know what I have any time to drink. No. This is a good experiment to see exactly what is this thing actually doing. So clicking on this mask, we check the overlay on that. Now that has sort of done the job, although results do look a bit strange. How come it's not excluded? Oh, wait a minute. No. So we copy the hair, lips, iris and pupil, eye sclera, which is the, for those you don't know, the sclera is basically the whites of your eyes. Eyebrows and face skin. And that should have subtracted each of those from the actual, that's the whole subject. And you've got to admit, the AI selection is actually pretty impressive. I mean, okay, it's missed off a few tiny bits there, but you're not going to really notice that. So what we could do with that is, we'll take that's okay. So let's have a look at iris and pupil. So again, we could look at raising exposure on this a little bit. As you can see, that goes way too much. Push the contrast up on that. Take that saturation. We just want that to, I think that is making that bigger difference. Could take the white values. Yeah, that's just doing a little too much there. And yeah, I think we took the saturation a little too much. Again, you click on the overlay. And you can see we've lifted the exposure a little bit. That's our background. So looking at the background, could still take that down a little touch. And that just makes him pop a little bit more there. And we still have the sort of glowing, otherworldly, or demonic eyes, just a staple of the character. Because the only really thing we do want on this, we turn off the mask and we just go in at 100%, is we need to get our healing brush and just you can see it's a bit haphazard. Yeah, this is where my tablet doesn't seem to react well with Lightroom. I did notice this previously, and I know some people might be saying, well, you know, you need to get a Wacom tablet. I do have one, an older one, which I absolutely thrashed the living daylights out of. You know, so much so when I was learning how to use a tablet, and believe me, it takes some practice to get really sort of proficient at doing fine editing with it. Okay. And what we should do at this point is zoom out a bit, go back to our mask, and let's just take a look. So yeah, drop the exposure same as before. What we could always just take it down a smidge. Because not every picture is going to be exactly the same. And looking at that, actually the one thing I'd be tempted to do here is just darken the hair a little bit. So we might do is just create another mask, like people, as always. And we're going to select hair, create a mask on that. We'll just take off the overlay and maybe take that down a little bit. Just like just playing around with some of these values and just see what kind of effect we get. And there you have it. We've gone from our before and we've copied and applied the settings, including the layer masking settings, which were detected using Adobe's AI. So, pretty impressive, I must admit. I'm thinking that's how quick that I did that edit, and this is just me getting used to new software. So imagine how fast you could get once you get this down, and it's like a fine art. You could just dive into this, make a few quick changes, press a button, and you're done. And if you have a few hundred photos to do, this would really cut your time down. But I'm not always after saving time for the sake of it. I want to make sure that pictures have had, the right amount of work done to them so that they look their best and they make the person, show them at their best. That is my priority. If I can make things happen a little faster, I'm all for it. So that's our second edit. And I think what we'll do is right now we're going to take a break. So if you are watching, go get yourself a nice drink. Don't go away. And we're back for part 2 of the 18% Grey Show, part 10. I know, hard to imagine that it's taken this long, but we're getting there. And before we carry on editing, I thought I would just do a quick shill for my Patreon, because I could really do with your support. Times are tough, and as you can see, I've done quite a few cons this year, at least three major cons, and produced, I think, some pretty great images. Most of the people seem to be very happy with what they've got, and it would be nice, a nice gesture of support, if you could consider becoming a patron. That would allow me to spend a bit of money to go towards more events, maybe holding some exclusive photo shoots, possibly booking a studio and offering, say, a studio day. So if you take a look at my Patreon, you can see that you can support me from as little as £1 a month, and you can get access to pretty much most of my stuff. But you can also get additional things if you become an apprentice, and £3 a month, that's the cost of one posh coffee a month. And I'm sure most people spend that more than multiple times per month. But you can't blame a poor tog for trying. So if you'd like to support me, head over to my Patreon, consider joining. You can also make one-off donations via my PayPal Me account. Links are in the Twitch About Me area of the stream. So that's my shill for part 2. So I'm going to switch back to Lightroom and take a look at what we're going to do next, but where we just left off. So back to Lightroom again, and as you can see, what we've done with this edit is we actually copied and pasted the developed presets from the first edit, and this includes the AI and masks. And I have to admit, I'm pretty damn impressed with the job it's done. The only thing that Lightroom still bugs me about Lightroom is how it seems to have weird reactions with my tablet, where Photoshop is perfectly fine. But what we might do is, if we're happy with an edit where it is, we'll then whiz it into Photoshop, do a quick cleanup at the final end of the image, and then drop it back in. And that's sort of where we'll end up, because as you can see, we've got a few bits to clean up, and we've kind of got rid of a few of them. But Lightroom being Lightroom and my tablet, they don't play nice, and they start not just selecting one area. You move your pointer and it's selecting everything else, and it's like, I didn't ask for this, but it's one of those things, the tools you have to work with. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our next edit, and out of all of the standing shots that I was doing with Seb, I wanted to get some of the building and sky into the picture, but obviously the sky's blown out quite a bit. But the reason I selected this picture specifically is because we had some wind motion and we got the coattails flying in just the right direction, because nearly always you can guarantee when the wind blows, it's going to be blowing the wigs all over the place. The costumes are going to be going in the wrong directions. I've only had it once before where the wind was perfect, and that was at the first, or in fact the evening before the first Secret Con event at Gloucester Prison. We were shooting outside Gloucester Cathedral, and I was doing a shoot with MF Cosplays, Martin French, and he was cosplaying Obi-Wan Kenobi. And we got this amazing shot where he was just all poised, ready for action, and the wind caught his cape just right. It looked amazing. You know, you couldn't have asked for a gust of wind at a more perfect moment. So this is kind of where we're going to sort of look and think, right, what can we do with this next? I think before we make adjustments, we could look at maybe tweaking the sky a little bit. So we pick that, our masking tool, we can pick sky, and boom, there you go, you have sky. Now what it doesn't have, at least I don't think, is it has the sky replacement feature that Photoshop does have, and that's actually pretty good. It does a better job than I've done with manual sky replacements, so much so that I almost find a sky I like, load it up and let it do its thing, and I'm just like, yeah, that's good enough. So we'll just take off that overlay, and for this sky we're going to pull the exposure down a little. That's too much. I mean, I've got a feeling we've lost a lot of that detail in the sky there, even if we pull down the highlights still. Actually, come to think of it, that day was quite cloudy. It wasn't really a very bright sunny day, and if I was going to replace the sky, I'd actually look at doing this Photoshop, take out the sky, add a new one in, and then apply the effects afterwards. Maybe we should try that. Why not? Let's just reset this. So we'll go back to where we are. Let's just take that, and we're going to, oh, before we do, just forgot, we're going to apply some colors and changes. Actually, no, tell you what, let's just see what happens. As you can see, we have no script for this. We are literally editing real time on the fly. Quick look. Chat's pretty quiet tonight. I've got a feeling won't be having many people online to keep me company. More than likely they're all at London Comic Con having a great time. No, I didn't want to do levels. I wanted to duplicate the background, and we will look for sky replacement. This is a pretty cool feature of latest Photoshop. So for all of you who are kind of opposed to paying a subscription for Photoshop, if you use it extensively, I think this is worth it. I mean, I know some people use Luminar, but the results I've seen from the sky replacements are just, I don't know, they just look a bit artificial. And you can see in an instant, we can change the sky. We have blue skies. Yeah, I want something we can make a little more moody, brooding, I think. As you can see, you can just literally take your pick or find a really nice sky that you like, and if you pick the sky you like, you can move it around. I mean, how cool is that? Obviously, you don't move it up there so you can see the edge, but take that down a bit and play around with the sky. Okay, not the same at the top though, but you can have a play around, just think with what you think might be a good looking sky. Once you've got that, you can then make some adjustments. So you might say, I want the sky to be brighter, or if anything, I want to bring them down a bit. I would say maybe about that. Yeah, I'd say that kind of has a good sort of look to it. And what we'll do while we're at it, let's just add my favorite cleanup layer, because we know we're going to need to do some cleanup work on this. We could actually use the spot healing tool, because it's not really a massive amount of texture here. So, oh, hold on, it's not that one. That one. And as you can see, we can make fairly quick work of doing little bits of cleanup. And just sort of tidy up these tiny little bits that will, if you're not careful, pull the viewer's eye. This is normally why portrait photographers often have a lint roller with them. So just before you start shooting, you can step up to your subject and just say, oh, before we just shoot, do you mind if I just run this roller over you? Just pick up any dust and lint. And that way we don't spend this much time in Photoshop having to tweak and clone out distractions. Again, anything you can do in real light will save you time later on in Photoshop. But this does happen. I mean, even high-end fashion photography, the same thing happens there. You'll often find them doing things like cloning out hair from the model's eyes, even though we all know wind blows and hair moves. So let's just have a quick look, see if there's any other little bits. Again, don't forget, we're going to be zooming out quite a bit, so when we do, you're not actually going to notice a lot of these little distractions. It's just me being a picky bugger, basically. But now we've got a cleaned up image. We've done a bit of a sky replacement. And what we could do now is, I'll just take that and we take that as a final layer. We'll save this. And then we'll switch back to Lightroom and just wait for Lightroom to, well, actually preview's already. Lightroom's already done its thing here. And let's say we go back to this picture. And we then go and copy our settings. So again, we're going to copy all of the basic adjustments. So the white balance, contrast, clarity, hue, saturation, etc. We'll copy the tone curve. We'll also copy the color grading, our detail and sharpening, as well as our masking. And we may add an additional mask. Actually, no, we've got a mask for the background and it should detect it. So we'll copy all that. And we'll go to our edit. That's we've just brought back in from Photoshop. And we'll now paste these settings. 6 seconds it takes to go and recalculate which bits are which. How awesome is that? And again, we go to our masking. We should have, this one should be our, yes, this is our background. Now we could mask out the sky and make an additional tweak. So what we'll do, we'll create a new mask and we'll select sky. So we've taken the sky that we've done in our sky replacement. We'll just take off an overlay and let's say I want to maybe make that look a little more menacing, perhaps. Maybe lift the shadows a little. And let's say we'll just take the shadows down a little bit. We're going for a much more sort of, I wouldn't say haunted, but more menacing sky. And we've got, you know, our Butler, Sebastian Michaelis, summoning the forces of darkness. Well, he is a force of darkness, being a demon, but always summoning them, and it's having that sort of effect around the manor Phantom Hive manner, where the clouds above are changing. You know, you've kind of seen the same thing in Ghostbusters. I think, was it Ghostbusters 1 or 2, where, you know, you sort of saw all the clouds suddenly rolling in and turning very dark. And straight away, we've got this sort of sky masked onto it. And we could look at, say, what should we try and do with this? Do we want to change the actual colour of the sky? We could do. I mean, you could make it really outlandish, but maybe somewhere about there, a little bit, I think. Actually, could take the, that won't do, no. Undo the hue, and going to make that warm. We're going to just, yeah, we're starting to go into the blues there, so we want to something like that. Just add a little bit. Now, the other feature you can do with this is you have an amount slider, so you can take the whole effect out, or you can just dial in how much you want, or you can overdo it, so twice as intense. But that looks really kind of very fake at this point, I would think. Let's say we go for something like that. That might be a bit more believable. And maybe one other mask we might add is just to darken the hair ever so slightly. So let's create a mask. We'll select people. Got to admit, really liking this feature. It really makes the selection work so easy. It's almost ridiculous. And if we just take, as you can see, we can take the hair color almost right down. We might take that much, and we may just take some of these. Yeah. Pull the highlights down a little bit. Maybe. Yeah, we'll just take our white balance down. That isn't, again, that's only having a minimal effect, so we can leave that as is. As you can see, again, we have our tone curve on. And our color grading. So that's, again, that's pretty impressive when you consider what we've done, or what we've not had to do as much. And I've got to admit, I do like some of these features. I think this would make, you know, batch editing images like this an absolute breeze. And yeah, and as you can see, we're just dropping frames for some reason. Well, it's not showing us drop frames on the stream in OBS, but I'm noticing that the webcam seems to be struggling a bit. So we'll go back to our image there. And, well, that's interesting. It looks like the webcam has just locked up all of a sudden. Let's see. If we can just knock off the camera there for a second. Oh, now we're back. Hold on a second. Where did I go? I've disappeared. I bet some of you are saying, thank God for that. God, it was so boring. And we're back. So, we'll see what happens next. That was weird. But if you've been watching this stream, you notice every now and again we have some lockups with either the webcam or the background. Not really quite figured out what's causing that, because we're not really taxing this machine at all. But enough of IT rambling. God, I haven't even hit the lager yet. That'll get much worse. So if we go to 100%, as you can see, a quick clean up, and that's looking already a lot better. I kind of like that dark moody sky there. Yeah. And you know, when you compare that to, that's the original image without the sky replacement. Let me switch to that. I'm sure you'd agree. I think that's a much stronger, more dramatic looking image. I kind of like that. I hope Seb likes it when he gets to see it. So let's crack on with our next edit from this batch. Now I'm pacing myself carefully here because I'm looking at the time we've got, and I'm not sure. I don't think we'll finish the entire SecretCon edits in this stream unless I'm really going to go till 2 in the morning. So I might be back, or if I don't finish tonight, I will definitely be back tomorrow night to do a final going over the last few of the images, because we have got one of my favorite sets, I think, of the whole day, in all honesty. Really enjoyed shooting it, and actually we'll save that till last. So this is another image that we're going to work on. I think what we'll do first is we are going to do some cleanup. So let's get that quickly edited, and then we'll bring it back into Lightroom, apply some previous tweaks. And see where we go. So right, we need to get this tool in. I'm just going to quickly take out some of these sort of dusty lint sort of bits. So yeah. Because we don't have massive amount of texture, I'm not bothered particularly with the clone stamp tool, which I will be more likely to use in certain other applications. But as this is a sort of fairly uniform sort of black color, oops, oh, I should, oh no, why, being a muppet there. That's why you always got to watch which layer you end up clicking on. Otherwise you can start doing some weird stuff and not really figure out why. And there's nothing worse than you commit that final edit, especially if you delete all the layers that you work on, which I tend not to do. I like to keep working layers. One of the photographers whose events I attend, he has a tendency to collapse a lot of his layers. As soon as he's got more than 3 layers, it's too much. For me, that means you don't have any sort of places to go back, like an undo. You know, I like to have as many undo points as I possibly can, because I can guarantee I'm going to stuff something up while I'm editing away. So again, not being totally precise, but again, we are just doing a quick cleanup to save ourselves a bit of time later on. I'd say that is a lot cleaner. I'm just checking out, that's fine. And of course, one of the other things we could do at this point, could even try dodge and burn layer. And there's no harm in doing it, so let's give that a shot. Again, this is just showing the different sort of approaches that you can take while you're editing. And like I say, when I'm doing a live stream, I'm kind of conscious that I'm being watched, or even on replay, and people might be thinking, God, does he know what he's doing? No, not really. I just play around with things till I go, yeah, I like the look of that. No, but seriously, I do have some idea of what I want to do. It's just is that the right thing that I want to be doing at that moment in time? And I'm not always just sure of that. So what we'll do here, we've got the brush selected. We'll take the flow down to about 6%. Select white color. Make sure that we've got a soft round brush only. I'm not going to use any pressure sensitive stuff at the moment. Keep it nice and simple. And let's say we go in and want to paint a few extra highlights. There's plenty here. We can actually darken some down as well. So just using this, we can just very subtly just work on a couple of areas. And while we're at it, go to our clean up layer. And for this, we will use the clone stamp tool. And change it to current below. I just want to tidy up that stray hair there because it kind of stands out a little bit for me. That's one of the things about working with wigs. Sometimes you can get away with it, but other times you might think, no, it's not working really. There we go. And I'd say take that bit out there. And then go back to our brush tool. And if we wanted to add in a few it's like, whoa, that's a little too much there. I don't know why, because we are on the wrong layer, being a muppet again. And just little bits here and there. Just wherever it looks like the light is catching, that's what we're doing. And then we might say around some of these creases. We'll just accentuate those lines a little bit where it's picking out. That's basically what dodge and burn is all about, is lightening the lighter areas or darkening, whichever way around you want to go. Effectively, if you play around this, as you can see here, we're just subtly darkening things a little bit. We're actually effectively boosting a bit of contrast, so the difference between the brighter parts and the darker parts become more sort of pronounced. Sometimes it works really well, and sometimes it's a little, maybe not the best thing to use. It all depends on what effect you're actually going for. But there we go. So that's just, like I say, a literal, you can see, just switching that off and on there. See how that makes just tiny, it's a tiny difference, but in the right circumstances, it can really make an image pop. So that is pretty much a little bit of basic dodge and burn that will apply to this. So just deselect that background, select these three, give them a merge, I should call them final. And then we will close that one down. And then we'll save that. So we go back into Lightroom. And then we'll finish off. We'll give the edit like it's its final bit of polish. Got to admit, I'm liking that. That's really got kind of like a moody vibe to it. We can go back into the mask area. Let's see what we got. Iris and pupil. So if we zoom in there, we can. Oh, we're getting encoding overloaded. So starting to complain. I don't know why we're getting an encoding overloaded at 720p stream. Really? Come on. Yeah, 64's a little bit. 44's not bad. You can see, taking the highlights down, we could just accentuate the catch light a little bit. Maybe take that saturation up just a little bit there. And I'd say that looks fine. I think it's just little tweaks. And there we go. Now, one thing I have noticed about the latest version of Lightroom is that they've changed some of the preset names and actually removed a couple, because they used to have a skin softening light and a skin softening preset. Now, in all honesty, all they really did was just, I think, tweak the exposure a little bit and played with the clarity and texture sliders. But you would have to brush the mask onto, onto the image that you're working on to select the area you wanted to affect it to. But now we could say we wanted to go and add one more mask. In fact, we have. We have face and skin. We could actually go in and possibly, let's have a look at just reducing the texture a little bit. So I could take that down. As you can see, you can take that right down, and we're now getting to a very sort of plastic skin look. I'm not a fan of that. And the clarity kind of does the same thing. I would probably just do just a little bit, tiny bit, because normally I wouldn't really make many adjustments with guys, purely because we're meant to look a bit rough and ready, you know, unless we intend to be a very artificial character. I think you should have some falls, something there, but you can see how quickly we've just affected that change, and we've not had to use anything like a face tune filter like people would do when they get their photos back on their mobiles, and the first thing they're doing is putting an auto tune filter to make themselves look completely unrealistic. You know, it sounds like I've got an echo here. Unrealistic or not natural. But I want to keep it as a light touch as we can, so we're not doing too much, but getting the kind of result we want. So what we'll do when this thing finally catches up with itself is I'll go back over some of those earlier edits we've done and apply some of the settings from this particular one, just so that we have some sort of consistency when I can talk properly. And I've got a feeling that we're heading very close to the lager time. So the question is now, have we got time to do one more edit before we hit the lagers? I think we have. So let's go for it. Now, before we do, again, let's just show you the before and after. So you can see where we started and where we kind of ended up with. And for an edit, that is pretty damn good. I've got to admit, you'll have heard me say this pretty much at every edit we've done so far. Turn to like stream. That Lightroom's actually been really impressive with what it can do, and it's nice to play around with it. You know, if after a day or two of this stream being live, I go back and think, you know what, I'm going to re-edit those pictures, I may well do so. But right now, I'm actually quite happy with the results I'm getting. It's dramatically faster than what I've done before. There are times, like I say, I would still need Photoshop if I need to add overlays, any kind of effects, or more advanced compositing. Then at the moment, Lightroom can't do it. But that's not to say that at some point in the future that facility will be there, because I'm pretty sure with the AI technology that you've seen today in how it selects the subject and then can take a subject and select the eyes, the lips, the skin, the hair completely separately. That's really impressive. So there's no telling where this technology will go. You know, at some point it is going to make cosplay photographers completely redundant, you know, and that's something that I'm expecting to see within maybe the next 5-10 years, that there'll be an app on your phone that you can stand there or put it on a stand. It'll tell you which way to pose, take your picture and edit you into a background, and you didn't have to do anything, and you just post it, and it was like, look at me, this is my photo shoot. I didn't shoot with anybody. I used an AI bot to do the work for me. But at the same time, it would be sad to see the end of cosplay photography and photographers, because there will be a loss of individuality, a loss of creativity, and we'd be putting a lot of that creativity in the hands of an AI that somebody else has programmed and owns the rights to the images that are being created using it, which is something that people maybe haven't cottoned on to with the current versions of AI art, that people are creating art, posting it and claiming that they've done it, when in reality there's a computer program that's actually doing this for them. It's interpreting what they are looking for, but in no way have they actually done anything. Just provided I want a picture that shows me this, this and that, and it goes up and makes it. But it's not the same thing as picking up a pen and drawing it out, saying I want it to look like it's in this kind of pose. But that's me ranting on about AI now. So we're definitely getting near to needing lager. But what we'll do before then, where are we? So we've done that one. As you see, that was our original. Now here's another one, it's a subtle variation, and I kind of like where it is. It's a little more serious, kind of almost more menacing. And we were mimicking the scene where I think it was a group of local mafia types come to Phantom Hive Manor and try to take over the place and hold CL Phantom Hive to ransom, and Sebastian dispenses all of them with literally nothing more than plates and kitchen knives and forks. And the place is immaculately tidied afterwards. Because after all, what kind of butler would he be if he left the place a mess? So let's go and get this into Photoshop. So we see we're still using Photoshop. And that's purely because there are some things that Photoshop really does well. And I think you should always use the right tools for the right job. So let's go to our spot healing brush tool, get our pen tool and quick sweep. And once again, we're just literally picking away at tiny bits of, I don't know, lint or whatever. Possibly may have come from the gloves by the looks of it. You know, it happens. Materials tend to shed, get everywhere, especially if you're brushing a costume down and you happen to be wearing a glove. You are going to be dropping fibers everywhere. Quick check over here. That's okay. This side, and just take a few bits off. Again, it's just reducing the amount of these tiny distractions so that, you know, keep your eye focused on what you should be looking at and not what you shouldn't be looking at. So we're making sure that your attention is placed where it should be, which is naturally our subject. Quick look over there. We've got any, yeah, right, just a bit of hair there, and that is that bit. So what we'll do next is we'll just zoom out a touch, pick up our dodge and burn layer, switch to our brush tool, and make sure we've selected white. So we're going to brush in some highlights, just adding a little extra, and you can see where his pointer's gone. Just very, very slight addition. It's pretty much, you see, anywhere where the light is catching, we just want to, they're already quite bright, but we can just enhance this a little bit. There we go. So that's what we were going to do. You know, completely flipped. Slipped my mind, as it does. It's been that kind of a week. I don't mind taking my time a little bit on this because it's kind of calming and therapeutic, and I'm enjoying the music as well. Really, no, I didn't want to do that. Go. Oh. No, we'll just switch into a darker tool. Just anywhere. While we've been. Now, so admittedly, a lot of this you would probably never notice if you saw this posted on Facebook or Instagram. And the reason for that is that they use such heavy compression on the images that, for example, all the detail that you would have in, say, a black garment will get crushed to a few shades, a few very dark shades of black or more grey. So you lose a lot of the deep colour even with black. And you might say, well, why did you bother doing that? Because I'm thinking in terms of printing pictures instead of just looking at them from social media. So again, go back to our dark and burn layer. It's just a subtle enhancement. Like I say, it doesn't need to be much, but yeah, just enough. Please select that background. Close the previous one, save that. And now that we've saved that, we're going to switch back to Lightroom. And then we are going to reapply our develop settings from the previous picture within Lightroom. And I thought about it. I could have selected the previous picture because I actually made a small change to the face and skin. So what we'll do is we'll just remove the texture, sort of around the back there. And it's just a sort of subtle, a very subtle bit of smoothing, not too much, but probably dial that back a little bit. And there you have it. We have another edit from the set. So it's 5 past midnight. I'm going to take a break, and when we come back, we're cracking open a lager, because you know where this stream's going. So catch you soon. Be right back. And we're back for part 3 of the 18% Grey Show. And if you've wondered what's happened in parts 1 and 2, you just wind back to the beginning, you'll see it all. Anyway, I needed that break, and why is the camera locking up on me again? More importantly, there's one very important thing we need to do, and that's crack open a can. Oh, good. So, to recap, once again, you can see where we started off. We import well, let's just oh God. I need to make a best of selection of clips of me stuffing up my lines like this. And honest, that's all I've been. This is the first can. But we open this up in Photoshop. We then do our cleanup in there because, as you might have seen earlier on, Lightroom and my Huion tablet don't seem to play well together when it comes to drawing and stuff like that. Never figured out why. And I'm not spending big bucks on an expensive Wacom tablet because I have had one in the past, which I originally learnt to use. Found it was too big. And the Huion that I've got here is, I think, about, is it A5? No, it's more like A6. So if you take like an A5 wire, fold it in half, that's kind of the size you're working with. Like almost smaller than a paperback book. And it's ideal. So we applied a bit of cleanup. We then save the image back into Lightroom. Let's get this right. Come on, Mike, we're losing it here. If you haven't already lost it, the week I've had. And then we applied the settings and the AI masks that we've used within Lightroom, which I've got to admit, pretty damn impressive. You know, that has made quick work of what could have taken a lot longer. Now, you might be thinking, looking at somebody through earlier streams, could you not have just done this and it would have been quicker? And the answer is yes, but I wouldn't have got quite a polished result. So I would much sooner have done this in Photoshop in certain cases, especially if I'm going to do skin smoothing. I'd rather do frequency separation. That's my preferred method of working, and I like to use dodge and burn, and I've never yet found a decent way of doing dodge and burn in Lightroom, especially with the tablet issues that I'm having with the stylus and that. So this is where we ended up. So let's go back to our view. Now we have 2 more images in the Black Butler set. Now I've always wanted to do this kind of a shot, and that one, and it's like, which one out of those 2 would I like better? Well, you know what, we're going to edit them both. So first thing we're going to do, as always, is going to get this into Photoshop, and then we're going to do a sky replacement, as you've seen earlier. But first thing we'll do, let's get a cleanup layer going. And let's use use our spot healing tool. Now, at this level, I only really need to concern myself with the areas that are mostly in focus, so I can always reduce the size of our tool a bit. And just taking a few of these out will lessen the distraction when you're viewing it. Mind you, I am looking at this at a high magnification at 100%. And in fact, to be honest, we're actually out of focus there. Our focus point is shifted. So we've actually got Seb's arms in focus, but his face is slightly out of focus. We could get away with it, but we'll have a play at sharpening that up with Topaz AI, because we've got it, so let's use it. And let's see how it crashes this machine even more. Clean that up there. That's all fine. So that's our cleanup layer done. And what we'll want to do at this point is merge these together. This is just so we can do the sky replacement and take this apart. And as you can see straight away, we can play around with our skies and see, do we want something like that perhaps, or maybe just a little hint of moodiness. And I think we just lift the brightness a little bit, not too much, and we'll output that to a new layer. And I must remember to do a quick dodge and burn on this as well. So at this point, we're just going to go fire up our dodge and burn with our brush tool, and then we're going to zoom in a little bit and take our tool, and we'll just helps if we swap around so that we're actually using white here, just to apply a bit of an accent. And again, this time we're not doing massive amount, it's just very, very small little tweaks. And we're just going to shift into our dark colors. Well, actually we're basically shifting to black to darken down some of these edges a little bit. You might notice how and that is what we need to do there. And we'll just... Okay, so it looks like Photoshop is having one of its moments. Yeah, definitely bombed by the looks of it. Nice. Thanks, Adobe. Everything was going so well, and then it went. So, I suppose what we'll have to do is going to just come out of that. Yeah, that isn't really quite responding the way it should be. It's just not responding, so we'll have to abandon this one and go back in again. So let's just new Photoshop. And we'll start again. Oh joy. It's a real bind when you're in like the middle of an edit and then Photoshop just stuffs up and there isn't really much you can do about it. You could save it and close it and reopen it, but for what it's worth, it's probably just as quick. Do that. Big tool. And we'll just go over the same bits we did last time. Noticing that we're very quiet in the chat tonight. Like I say, I bet most people are at the Fox getting drunk or being thrown out or having the sense to go and find a cheaper pub or off license or local convenience store and get cheap alcohol rather than paying expensive London prices. Well, mind you, you are paying London prices anyway if you're at Comic-Con London, so you'll be saving a bit more money. And an important thing also to note is that the clocks go back tonight, so I'm not planning to be streaming at 2 a.m. and of course that also means if you are currently in London, you're going to need some extra money to get you through that last hour before you go home at the end of the weekend. Let's just tweak that bit out there. Yeah, definitely a bit soft, so it happens, you know, when you're standing there holding a camera, there's a good chance that your focal point is going to shift ever so slightly, and that can be a bit of a pain when it does, because as you see, we've got the focal point basically is around about here, so the part way up Seb's arm, and we've kind of lost a little bit there sharpness, but we're going to use Topaz AI Sharpen to see if we can bring back a little bit of that sharpness. Now, if you've seen me use it before, sometimes the results are kind of hit and miss. Sometimes it can be really good, but it can also be very aggressive and leave like lots of nasty artifacts, which you don't maybe notice until you've committed your final edit, and then you're looking at it going, what's going on here? let's have a quick look at dodge and burn. Yeah, that's fine. Take that background on. Take those. I'm just going to zoom out a second. And we're now going to, well, we're not, because we haven't selected the right layer, me being a numpty. So let's just get this open up in Topaz. And take a look. Okay, let's just see what you think. Let's see how out of focus it is. Now that does sharpen up, but the first thing you may notice is that we've got quite a few artifacts, and it's like very excessive sharpening on that. So I'm just going to change that. Let's see. Maybe a motion blur. What I'm looking for is something that gives me a little more sharpness, but without the artifacting. Because again, I can kind of see that around there a little bit. Now, naturally, when we look at the whole image, we're not going to sharpen all of it. We're literally going to just pick the area that we want to work with. So again, I can just select that. And let's say I want to refine. And I want to just take this out a bit. If it lets me, which I have a feeling we have to wait for a second for it to do its update. And our encoding's constantly overloading and complaining here. So need to figure out what's going on there. Okay, I just want to take out as much as I can, and it's purely because most of this is fine. If it's in front of our focal plane, I actually want it to be out of focus. And this is where maybe I should have made a bigger brush and just gone through and said, no, I don't want these bits to be sharpened. just move down. Just take this out a bit. Like I said, Topaz AI is a very impressive piece of software. You know, it's actually saved my proverbial on a few occasions. Let's see. Yeah, we want to sharpen up the hair because it would look a bit weird if we had the face pin sharp and the hair was blurry. So that's our selection. So we'll update that. So that kind of keeps our adjustments to the minimum amount of area. And definitely, as you can see, very artifact. So see, let's try autofocus normal. Each of these sharpened models will do different things and have different effects. And you may not notice this, but if you look on here, you can see some really strong patterning. And let's see what happens if we suppress that noise. Can we reduce that a bit more? Yeah, that does look very, very aggressive. Maybe if we try autofocus very noisy and see if that smooths things out a little bit. It's often a case of having to play around with settings in this because it's not perfect. And with it being kind of an AI, it's probably learning with the samples that are being submitted. So if I switch that to model parameters, we'll just have a look and see what we get. Well, we're nearly we've gone past half past midnight. And if you're in London, you are probably getting ready for another manic day. In fact, Saturday, today, will be probably the most manic day at London Comic Con. So, wow. I've never been, so I can't comment on what the event's like, but I'm quite content to be up here in Manchester because I can sit back and look at some of the photographs that come back from the con, from just sort of the regular people who go there and some of the real top-end cosplay photographers, and I can see some amazing stuff without spending £800 for 3 days in a hotel and an £85 ticket. So it's not too bad. You know, if I had a choice of cons, I would much sooner go to Europe, say Vienna Con, Dokumi or Konichi, any of those, you know, because they're a bit more anime focused, which is kind of where I am at the moment. Although I am looking at branching out a bit more into Marvel and DC stuff, and I will be putting out a post on Instagram and my Facebook page just to see if there's anybody in my local area who is a Marvel or DC cosplayer or knows someone who would be interested in doing some shoots with me during the downtime over the next couple of months. So let's try suppressing that noise a bit more. We'll see what happens here. This is one of those pesky things that you have to do sometimes. It is just literally try it and see and go, okay, does that actually work better or worse? Or maybe I need to remove the blur a little bit. Because it doesn't have to be absolutely pin sharp, just acceptably sharp will do. Yeah, that artifacting is really not a fan of that. So I'm gonna go for standard and try a lens blur instead. So if you're watching this may not be particularly entertaining, but it's something that we end up doing. So when you get your cosplay pictures back, you might think, you know, watching this video, think, wow, I didn't realize that maybe that much stuff went on, because you won't always know exactly how something looks. And I'd say, yeah, standard's probably more like it, I think, for me. So I'm gonna go with that. We'll let the processing do its thing and probably cause some frames to drop. So while we're doing that, let's have a lager. Once this is done, we'll take another look, reevaluate the image, see if we need to do anything else, and if not, we'll get this back into Lightroom and apply our finishing touches. So this is kind of a hybrid process at this point, because we are doing some work in Photoshop and we're also doing some of it in Lightroom as well. Let's have a look. That looks okay to me. I'm happy with that. So let's take that back into Lightroom. We'll just save that there. You know, I just realized something. We didn't do the sky replacement, did we? Or we turned it off. Let's have a look. No, we didn't do the sky replacement. What a numpty. So, sorry about that. But we can fix that quite quickly. Doesn't take too long. And we'll just move things around a little bit. So just add that a little bit of brightness maybe on that one. So got some variation in that, and we'll add that to a new layer. How did I miss that, honestly? So let's just resave that yet again. Let's get back into Lightroom. There we go. Oh, that's a bit more like it. And what we will do this time, we'll do the smart thing, is we're going to copy all of our basic adjustments, tone curve, color grading, detail, and masking layers that we've applied. And this will also have, hopefully, the clarity and texture reductions on Seb's face. So it will just smooth it out just a little bit, but like I just don't want to overdo it. That's not bad. Yeah. I'd say that is okay. And again, we could just go into the mask and we might say, actually, let's just check face. And you can see we're taking texture and clarity down. So we're just getting a little teeny tiny smooth. We'll just select that sky. Select. Okay. And let's say you don't want to take the temperature down too much. Maybe increase that overlay a second. Yeah, we'll raise that just a little bit. Bring the shadows up a little. Again, this is just about making the sky not look exactly the same. So as brightness goes up and down, things will change. So we just want to kind of keep it in that kind of vein. And sharpness, actually, no, that is something we could do with. So we take that sharpness down. Oh, that's having a good think about that. But, you know, I'll leave it like that, because I must admit, that sky did look a little sharp, and the edge of the building isn't, so the sky shouldn't be in, because it's further away. But on the whole, I'd say that looks about right. So what we shall do now is we have an alternate angle. I like to play with the Dutch tilt a bit, so I'm going to edit this one anyway, so let's get that into Photoshop. What we'll do this time, we're just going to check our focus point is a lot better. Yeah, so we're good with that. Just duplicate that layer. And then we'll go for our spot healing brush tool, and we're just going to quickly clean up Seb's jacket. Do a virtual lint roller. Just take away a few little distractions, and that's generally all that we need to do. Next we'll add our dodge and burn then, so we'll just make sure this time we switch our brush down, and we're just going to very gently look at where the highlights are being picked out by the light overhead, and while we're at it, I've just spotted a same thing every time. Just wanted to clean that up a bit. Yeah, hair on the eyes is okay, so let's go back to that, switch to the brush tool, and we'll just zoom out a touch, pick the tool down, and we're just adding a few tiny accents. And what we'll do is switch our colors around to black, and then we'll just darken down some of these areas close to the edge. Again, it's just boosting contrast a little bit and just maybe accentuating things a little. And that eyes, I think, will do. So we'll just zoom out for a second, or just test. There we go. So deactivate those layers, and then we will go dye replacement. Now, this will be interesting. Can we actually rotate the sky? I wonder. No, it doesn't give you that choice, but saying that, yeah, just keep that about there. Why do we say about there? And it helps if you can type. Get those. And I'd say it's okay. So we'll quickly get that saved. And we'll switch back into Lightroom, or we will do when we get there, and then we will add on our previous things. we select the sky. And we'll turn off the overlay for a second. It'll just add a touch there, bring the shadows up a bit, and we want to take the sharpness down somewhere. And there we have it. So that is the Black Butler set complete. Obviously the first couple of images we were playing around with just doing the edits in Lightroom. We weren't doing the cleanup as much, but I'll finish those off by literally just opening up in Lightroom, adding on a cleanup layer, and then just taking out those little bits, tidy it up a bit, and bring it back, and it will be fine. So that bit's done. Now, let's see how we're going on. Ooh, we're getting into that third hour. My God, I may be streaming till 2 o'clock at this rate. So, this next image, in fact, before I do, let's just show you the before and after, so you can see where we started off with. In fact, you know, the real, that's the real before. So I did expose to make sure that Seb was, you know, properly exposed, blew out the sky, but I figured it doesn't matter. It wasn't exactly a great looking sky anyway. It was fairly grey. We could always do sky replacement, which is exactly what we did. When Lightroom decides to display what it's doing. You know, I'm seeing myself freezing on screen here, and I'm going, what the hell's going on now? But there you go. So we have got a much more moodier image, I think. So that's Sebastian's set completed. Let's move on to our next one. Now, I've forgotten who she is at the moment. I have got a note, so don't worry. And I missed her first cosplay, which I think was amazing. I'm pretty sure she had a blue face and a third eye on her forehead and looked amazing, but I was like doing something else at the time. But after I'd finished, and this is actually shortly after I finished shooting with Seb, we were just standing there having a chat, and she just walked up to me, waved her wand at me, and went, "You look like a photographer. You free to shoot?" And I'm like, "Yes, we've done talking, Seb. We'll catch up with you in a bit. Let's shoot." So, this is an original character based on one of her D&D characters, who I recall the character is a dwarf who's a miner, I think, and using a magic spell make them look like a hot witch. Okay, that sounds like an interesting D&D character. So with this image, what shall we do? That's a good question. Should we go straight into Photoshop on this one, or should we have a go and see about maybe making a couple of tweaks? I think there might be a room for an effect or two, but we'll see. Because I must admit, I am actually liking what Lightroom's doing with some of these edits. It's actually been really interesting to see how this all works. So checking over the exposure and that, yeah, I would like to say maybe we darken the background a little bit, so you know what I would do there. Let's just go grab a mask, select the background. And that's a very good selection straight away. It's really clean. And let's see, we might say, okay, let's just take that exposure. Because we could take it down, I mean, you could take it that far down. That's really too much. That's blowing out a bit there. I would say maybe about there. Almost, maybe almost like one stop down. Maybe we'll take the contrast down a little bit, just because it's a bit further away. And we'll bringing up the shadows will just lighten up some of these areas a tiny bit. So what else do we want to do? Now, come to think of it, what I forgot to do, I would normally desaturate this, but then again, there's no hard and fast rules for how to do things, so we'll play with that. We've got, I think, a fairly nice adjustment there. So we'll create a new mask, and for this one, let's take a look. Let's just take the whole entire person. For this one, we'll create a mask. What we'll do is we're just going to put our saturation down there, so we're not quite as strong on the colors. Good. Just bring that exposure down a little bit. Take that highlight. But if we can take the highlights that far down, probably get away with taking the exposure down a little bit more. Something like that. Although what we could do is we could just say we're just going to go for that bit there. Maybe bring the shadows just to get some of this detail in, not lost. And then we might brighten the face up a little bit with a separate mask. And then we could also take the hair, we could tweak the colours a little bit on that if we wanted to. But as it's an original character, I don't want to deviate too much from cosplayer's original idea. So what we'll do now that. Say, let's just create a mask. We'll select people again this time. Duplicate face and body skin. Eyes. So it's pretty much just taking the hand and the face. We'll turn off the overlay. And we'll just bring that up a touch. Like that. It's not a lot, but it's just a tiny bit there. Which would be good. That would do, I think. And maybe we'll just take our text and clarity down a bit. She's not wearing any contacts. I can't remember whether she mentioned what the eye colours were meant to be, so I'm going to leave them as they are. Although I suppose we could go for green, given that I've got some green hair. Possible. We can have a quick play with that. Won't do any harm, will it? So we'll do our select people again, and I've got to admit, I'm really liking that feature. How easy this is. So I'm going to pick the iris and pupil. See how that's selected that straight away. So we'll create a mask. And we'll just take off the overlay. Let's just see. How much effect that saturation has. Not a great deal, but the hue should, in theory, be adjusting it. Well, you would think, but I can't actually see that. Okay, really? Is that really tweaking the colour there? Hardly convinced, but maybe we need to whack up their saturation for a second. Oh yeah, we have been getting some shifts there. And then we take the we'll just leave the eyes to about that. And there you have it. That's a fairly simple, lightweight edit. And, you know, if you think, well, I can't tell the difference, you can kind of see it a bit more now. I've darkened the jacket a little bit, opened up the shadows to bring this out, lightened the face, also maybe just pepped up the eyes a little bit, left the hair as it is, although we could even select the hair and change the colour. In fact, we could change the colour literally at this point by either going into the tone curve And obviously that's a thought. Color grading. I don't tend to have it's like a standard preset look, because I treat image as its own entity. So I kind of look at cosplayer, the background, and I kind of think, what would I want to do with this? How would I change this to be different? Give it a more unique sort of feel. So coming back to this, assuming we haven't done, yeah, we haven't actually done any kind of, there you go. Why am I adjusting the blue? Let's just I'm going to take that down a little bit, and we'll take the red. Yeah, if we take the red out, we get to green, so we just want a tiny bit there. Let's take the green. Obviously, pulling out the green, we start shifting to magenta, so we might want to not change that control point. And again, taking out the blue. We take that blue and do I want to add like a lot of blue to an image, or maybe put a control point there and raise the green in the shadows area. Or failing of that, we can also play around with our hue saturation layers. So for example, over here, if we look at our green, if we just take the hue, for example, take green, see which areas of green are changing. Aqua's not making a big difference. Yellow's more likely to play a trick. It's not much, it's mostly between yellow and green. So what we'll do is go to our shadows, and again I tend to fall into this range, so let's play around. Let's see, like what if we decided to have orange in the shadows and make the highlights colder? So we're actually warming up the shadows a bit. Yeah, it's entirely possible that we could go something like that. Yeah, I'm not convinced that's even having an effect there. So, double click that. Let's go back and grab our shadows. Oops. So we take that as our shadows. We'll pick up the highlights. sort of a brightish sun. Let's say we might go for a highlight so it's a bit yellowy. Let's see. It's subtle, not a great amount, but that's not such a bad thing. And then we'll just take an overall grade over the top. I might say, well, you know, I want to go either cool the tones down a lot more. Or I might want to introduce a hint of pink. Or the orange, perhaps. And then just take that on the edge there. It's at this point I wish that we had some people in the chat tonight because, or this morning, because at least you could abuse me for what I'm doing here and saying, no, you need to change this, change that. But I'm sure you'll be catching this on a replay at some point and going, oh my God, what did he do? And lastly, let's just give a tweak our sharpening a little bit. And could always apply a very subtle, yeah, one way to say subtle is to take that midpoint and bring that to about 80, take this down. Key to doing is just to not look at values, but just look at whereabouts the image is in terms of its sort of brightness in the corners. And that kind of, I think it just draws the focus a little bit more towards the subject here. So what we'll do next, let's just do a quick before and after. Yeah, we've got a bit more detail in the grass now, darken it down a little bit, made it sort of stand out a little bit. So, you know, I think that's fine. And in the absence, yeah, in the absence, repeat myself. In the absence of anybody on the chat to argue differently, I'm going to go with this. So this is going to be my base for this set of shots. I may change my mind afterwards, but you know, it is what it is. So what we'll do next is, we didn't actually make many adjustments to this lens, so what we could do at this point is if we just go and copy our develop settings. So we'll see, did we even, yes, we did use masking, detail, color grading, tone curve. Pretty much copy those. Eight seconds. Well, it's taking a bit longer there. Not sure what's going on there though. So, right. Can see it, so we may need to tweak the mask. So we've got background. That's why we have this mask. Needs a bit of a tweak. Okay, that masks the eyes. And what we'll do is we'll add with a brush. So let's get our brush tool. In fact, we'll use the mouse for this because so we'll see how that looks overall. That's a bit better because we don't have that hard line showing up there, and that bit there, not even going to really notice that, in all honesty. So check out before and after. Just go back to our main image, and let's see, this will be iris and pupil. And looking at this, yeah, we've got saturation 100%, record. Brighten the eyes up a tiny bit. And just increase the highlights there. And I'd say that looks fine to me. Quite happy with that. We may possibly drag that into Photoshop and add some kind of magic effect on it. I haven't decided yet. That's possibly something I'll do afterwards. Although, there's no time like the present. Sod it. Let's do it. So we need to, let's see where, face settings. I'm going to take that back to import. Do it, literally reset everything at that point, and let's get this into Photoshop. Yes, there is a tiny thing that's bugging me a little bit. That's better. That little bit just kept catching my eye there. And as you know, if you do spot things like that in a picture, your eye starts to get drawn away. You know, where should your eye be looking at? In this picture, this is where you should be looking, not at a tiny little speck down there. What we could do is add some kind of magic effect, because at the end of the day, she's got a wand. She looks like she's about to cast some kind of energy bolt or something. And I'm thinking of some kind of overlay. So, you have to excuse me, there's it's starting to yawn. So, let's get our action. Let's hunt down. No, it's not an overlay. No, sorry. You can tell it's starting to flag. You know, it's getting near the end of all this, and could use some kind of. Could use that one again. That's always a good one. I'm sure there is an easier way of doing this, but what we'll do is stick a layer. Hit that. Make this 100%. And see, is that kind of the look we want? I'm not sure on that. So let's have a look at the brushes we've got. We have a few interesting brushes we could try. Now that might work. Yeah, I'm not sure about the streaks so much. Single point, not quite where I'd want to go with that. Yeah, not too struck on those. A lot of the time, not that one so much. Works better on a smaller side, I think. Basic, but yeah, it's not kind of grabbing me. That's OTT, at least to me. I think I've seen that one. So let's have a possibility. I think we need something a little more, maybe a bit more interest. One of those is you've got to just sometimes go through. That does not work at all for me. No, the lines are too much. Almost horizontal flare. That could be almost J.J. Abrams there. Could work, but I'm not convinced at the moment. One of the things that having all these brushes is kind of figuring out which one works best for what you're doing. So I'm not sure about those. I'm probably going to go back to one of my earlier choices. Big problem there is you need to line that up a bit. Yeah, not quite going for that. That's possible. Maybe need to rotate it a bit. No, that's definitely non-starter. That's a OTC on that. It's one of those, you know, you think you had it and me, I would probably rotate that about 45 or so. Got potential. One thing it does need, I think, is a very slight blur to that, so we'll take that. Somewhere about there. That will do the job. So you have that. We'll add a second layer. Maybe we'll reduce the sizes a bit more. Apply the same Gaussian blur to that as well. Maybe we'll reduce the radius on it a bit. So we had a bit of intensity in that one, and what we'll do is we'll just take that down about 40%. So it's just got a little bit. And we've got something going on there. Just checking the chat. Obviously it looks very quiet, but not surprising really. But like I say, if you are watching or happen to swing past, just say hi. You know, let me know you're out there. I know quite a few people seem to watch this on a replay, so you know, depending on where you are, and if you've got problems sleeping, I can guarantee you will fall asleep watching this stream. So, looking at this, I'd say that lighting effect kind of does it. You don't need to change its color. Just need to have some intensity. Look like something's happening there. So what we'll do, we will group to bond effect. Tattoos. And that's our final layer that we set up. What we'll do then is we'll just save that. And now that we're in Lightroom, we're going to apply our develop settings. We may need to retweak these again. Yes, we do. So we'll just click on that. No, it's not that one. And this is where I need to add, and we'll add this with brush. Super precise about this, but then again, it's close enough. Now that we've done that, we'll just come out of the mask. That looks that effect at the end, I don't know, kind of looks weird, almost like we should add it after the effect, but they might revisit that. So it's one of those we'll come back to. So once again, if we do a before and after, but let's do that. You can kind of see where we started off with and where we sort of ended up. It's a little bit more of a greenish bias, but then again, we are out in the green, so decided to use that as kind of a base color for the grade. So we've got this one to do. First question is, do we need to do style replacement on anything? And I don't think we do. We could. Let's just place that setting onto there. Have a quick look. There you go. Like I say, that's pretty much got it there and then, really. Sometimes that's the slight downside of just being able to, you know, right click and paste the settings. You feel like you haven't done anything, but the reality is you've been doing all that work for that base image, and you are then sort of trying to figure out, can I tweak every other image slightly, or is this enough? And looking at this one again, does it really need that much doing to it? No, I'll just take it quite dark, so I have to think about that color grade. Maybe it's a little too strong. Let's just take that tone curve off. Yeah, I think maybe that bit there, we could just right click and delete that. Yeah, I just pepped it up a little bit. just adds a little bit of warmth. Sharpening's okay. So again, looking at where we started and where we ended up, it's kind of surprising how quickly that change is being affected. Like I say, it almost feels like he's taking the fun out of doing it sometimes. Yeah, and I'm a little conscious that maybe I should be spending a little more time. But it's almost like, you know, if you're doing a basic edit, sometimes you just need a few quick adjustments and you can step back and go, yeah, that's fine. But it's one of those. Right now, I'm thinking, this is fine. This is where it should be in my mind's eye. I may change my mind tomorrow when I look at it. But for the purposes of this stream, again, it's to show you how live editing goes, the kind of decisions that we make on the fly, and the outcomes. Again, it's about giving a picture sort of a unique, very distinctive look. Now we have 2 pictures left of this set, and I know if you're looking at the bottom of the screen, oh God, excuse me there, you can probably spot what's coming next. I'm not going to be doing those tonight or this morning for that matter. I'm going to save that for, I would say, tonight's stream. That's in Saturday night. I can see myself doing the last few images in that set. I just want to sort of have a look at these and think, well, okay, should we go with this? Should we try something slightly differently? Because if I try a different color grade, different effect, and I like it better, I can go back over these and retrospectively apply them. So let's move on to our next image, or shall we say our penultimate image for tonight, for the penultimate episode of the 18% Grey Show. That doesn't mean to say it isn't coming back. It will come back in maybe a different form, as I've talked about on one of my earlier streams the last week or two. I'll probably start looking at doing more digital artwork for a change, and I'll do some game streaming on the same channel. So it's all going to be a bit of a mishmash, but it's kind of a bit of everything in one place. So we're going to try it out as an experiment and see what floats. At the end of the day, I'm just doing this to have fun. So if you're enjoying yourself, naturally keep coming on, have a look. If you get a chance to watch this stream live, fire questions at me. And if not, you can always contact me through my Facebook or Instagram pages. And you can tell I'm about to yawn there. You know, I've had that kind of a week. Really, really tired, especially after last night. Washing machines, my God, what a workout those things are. Anyway, let's move on. We did this set of walking shoots about 3 times. Me constantly trying to find the right angle and making sure that we had focus and not too many people in the background, because at Keel Hall you could see that there were people congregating there a bit. I'm just suppressing a yawn there because I'm really starting to flag quite a bit. And it was one of those challenges to try and find the right angle, the right moment, with, you know, the costume sort of flying open, it's just swooshing down the pathway, waving your wand. You're about to do something, and this is like a much of a catwalk scene you could imagine, sort of dramatically striding down the path. Waiting you wonder, and my God, you can see I'm really to feel it tonight. So these last two images are going to be my last tonight because I am wrecked. So let's have a quick look and let's just do 100%. And considering that she was walking at the time, that's pretty damn good. I'm definitely happy with where that's ending up. Obviously, you can see our focus point is about here, so we are probably about 30 centimeters off, but I did stop down a bit purposely to try and make sure that we could get as much of a costume in focus as possible. But I don't mind a few edges blurring, because when things move and they blur and you see that in a picture, it implies that they're moving. You know, that costume, if you stood still, would fall down straight, but as soon as you're moving, things will start to move around. Oh God. Oh, dear me. I am suffering today. Oh boy. Come on, mate, get it together. We've only got maybe 20 minutes to go. So let's see if we can maybe clear. I'm going to take this in the Photoshop. First thing first. I want to see if we can perhaps clean out that area. Let's just try content aware fill. No guarantee this will work. Yeah, okay, that's not gonna fly. So I've got a feeling, unless we have a secondary photo where people aren't in the way, we're going to have a bit of a job. Actually, I don't know. Let's just create a cleanup layer. So what we'll do is we'll use our clone stamp tool, select the current and below. We'll go for 100% opacity. And then using a hopefully a soft white brush, soft round. We might be able to make these people disappear. I don't know, that sounds like a gangster, isn't it? I'm going to make you disappear. Sample that, and as if by magic, look at that. Not bad, eh? But it's kind of what you don't want to be doing all the time, because yeah, what's going on there? Let's say start right here. And just work on getting distractions. Sorry guys, but you know, you were kind of getting in the way a bit. where we want to go. And this is called I can't do these things right. God, I'm really having issues with this today. Just wanted to do well without it. There we go. We're starting to get there. Like I say, it's always a bit of a challenge. The lengths you've got to go to get rid of the pesky people who are getting in the way of your shot. Yeah, let's see how we get on. Like I say, it's not going to be perfect, but then it just has to be enough that they don't show up. We can just get this down a bit. We should, in theory, be able to get these people almost non-existent. It's not perfect, but you know, sometimes you don't need to be that perfect. Full zoom. Okay, we can just sort of see white areas a little bit off, but we'll have to fix it. I know we will. But this is all in the name of getting this picture where we want it to be. I guess the thing is to think about is how do we tidy this up a little bit just so it looks more realistic. Well, if we just stop and look at that for a moment and we concentrate on the subject, do you know what? You can't see the people in the background anymore. Awesome or what? Oh my God. So, what shall we do next? We've done a cleanup layer. We've got this kind of where we want. Could maybe have some kind of waving magic trail, perhaps. Why not? I think that might make a good idea for that. So let's pick that and let's go back to that. Would help if we actually chose brush. I like that the middle. I'll do that. I'm going to clean up, and while we're at it, I'm just going to take soft round brush, I mean, yeah. Let's see, foam stamp tool. Take the opacity about 50 something percent. And let's just do a bit of cleanup here. It's just tiny distractions. Obviously it's a bit of paint, so makeup spatter, but we just want to clean it up a little bit. Oh dear me. Just group those. And I think we're going to have a dodge and burn layer on this because we've got a light source around there we want to be. Making sure that we take that flow down to about 5% maybe. Just give the hair a little bit of a haircut there. Let's just have a look at the... You can see we're just adding a bit of an accent there. I'm just wondering whether we should have some kind of a magic trail. Can I actually draw one at 1:55 a.m? Probably not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group these together, and that was not what I wanted to do. That's better. Select a few of these layers, and let's just save that. Okay, so let's just back into Lightroom. And we're going to let's just apply our develop settings when he can actually find them. But it's like, what is going on here? There we go. Ooh, that's quite moody. I think what we did last time with this, yeah, is we'll just delete that control point of it. Just turn that off. Let's look at our color grading. Used to that. This one we may have to revisit. One of those my eyes are going, you know. Now let's take a look at that's our original. Okay, so let's do a before and after. Is that the color grade we really want? Good question. I feel like if I go global, if I go back and reset those a bit. Yeah, we've definitely got a bit of a green lift, but what would happen if we go for more of a pronounced blue lift, I think. Not too bad. This feels like it's a bit dark now. So maybe what we need to do is just, yeah, we need to lift that up a touch and brightness a little bit in the middle. And then we'll go back to our shadows, and let's just sort of have a look at where we think. I always seem to go for that sort of colour tone. Let's see what happens if we add a hint of pink in the shadows. A little different. For our highlights. Maybe we go like that. Then we'll just sort of look at what we think. If I were to go back here, or back maybe then. That might have a possibility. So we will have a play with that one. I should have a quick double check. Yeah, I think that's okay. We may go back and tweak those colors. So let's see, where are we up to? And that's where we're at with this particular picture. So luckily we don't have to do anything about getting rid of people in the background. That's always a good sign. I'm actually going to copy these develop settings. And we'll just apply these to this one and see what we get. Now, that's going for quite a dark moody one. I always say we should maybe just raise the exposure a little bit rather than whole field changing everything, and release that a bit of a contrast. Yeah, I could pick up the shadows a little bit more. Although, let's just take that back where it was. Let's go to our masks. Yeah, let's take a look at that. So I think that pulling that exposure down. Down the touch, and let's go to the person. As you can see, really pops out there, but it's just very sort of unnatural. It just needs a little more of a tweak, perhaps, than what we've done before. Let's just see that. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm going to leave it for this stream, because as you've probably noticed, the last 30 minutes I'm really starting to flag quite a bit. It's been a very long week for me. Yeah, and I've been looking forward to doing this stream, and I really want to make sure that these pictures are the best that I can possibly make them. So I'm going to stop at this point, and we'll revisit this in tonight's stream, as in Saturday night at 10 p.m. and we'll just go over these quickly, and then we are going to be on the home stretch, and we'll be into our final 2 photo sets from Secret.com, and then it'll be over. It'll be a bit sad, really. I'll need to go out and shoot some more stuff, but to do that I need people to shoot with, so that's why I'll be calling out to some people and seeing if we can generate a bit of interest to get some new content created during the downtime before cons start up again next year. So you've been watching the 18% Grey Show. I'm your host, Michael Babyface Black, and this is me saying good morning to wherever you are. Good morning.